were planted. Your life is not exactly as you thought it was going to be. Or anyone who's my age, getting closer to 60, did everything go as you wanted? You are holding these little jiggers. They're going to grow up to be big jiggers. And you're going to have an awful lot of plans for them. But they're not all going to turn out exactly as you want. And if they decide to go to this school or they decide to do that, or you think to yourself, I want them to be this, and you turn out to be that, and you say, you know what, I don't support you anymore, shame on you. Shame on me. Been a parent long enough to know that God made them to be who they are, and they bloom where they're planted. The pandemic, I don't know about you, but as old as I am, I can't waste any time. I don't know how long this puppy is going to go on, so I'm going to embrace life as much as possible and not say, I can't wait till this is over because then I will, as long as I'm with my wife and our 3 children, and I have my dog Ruby, and I have this great job, and I have my friends, I can still have a good life, can't you? One of the greatest things you know about an employee that you have, if you're a boss or a leader, is that there are people that as long as everything's exactly as you want them to be, he or she will shine. But you throw in one variable, and there are some people that just go, I can't do this. This is unbelievable. Greatness is having people around you. I got to know my sermon because I got these little jiggers who are going like that, and it's great because if I don't know my stuff, it's easy to golf with we, but then you go out and you have wind and you have this and you're betting $5 a hole and all of a sudden you get nervous. So bloom where you're planted. Life is difficult. Perhaps if you've watched the Olympics, you've seen a commercial. I love commercials. It's a commercial where there's a young woman who's swimming in a body of water, and then there's this voiceover. And it's a woman from an adoption agency, and she says, I have exciting news, but it's a little muted because I want you to know that we found a baby that you can adopt. She's from a different country, but you need to know that she's ill, and they're going to have to amputate her leg, so it's going to be really difficult. Bloom where you're planted? You know, no offense, but we were kind of hoping for a child that was healthy. You know, and maybe be in track and field because I was in track and field. Or a pole vaulter. Or just like me. And what does the woman in this case, in this commercial say? We can't wait to meet her. We know it's going to be challenging, but we're so excited to meet her. And then she's swimming, and I don't know, guess maybe Disney underwrote it a little bit because you want to think, maybe she grew up and became a Paralympian, and then you forget the point is bloom where you're planted. Family systems get funky, don't they? Anybody else have a family system that's a little wonky? Bloom where you're planted. Remember the Rolf Jacobson I said who was the editor? So Rolf Jacobson, when he was 18 in Mason City, Iowa, was the number 1 tennis player in the entire state, and then he got sick, and they had to amputate his legs. And when I thought about bloom where you're planted, it does me a little disservice because I already said he has a great book, and now I say he's a great guy, and it's just a little sickening to me because he'll take it and run with it. But even after they took off his legs, for about 15, 20 years, he himself had a clinic at Gustavus Adolphus College, and he was a key instructor in tennis. And you'd have these little 10-year-olds who would come, these little snot-nosed kids who'd come from the metro and like, you have no legs, you can't know anything about tennis. And Rolf would say, want to play? And even in a wheelchair, because if you're smart and you know tennis, he beat many of them. One of my favorite times of bloom where you're planted is when we were at Lutheran Seminary in St. Paul. Rolf would often drive. Why drive when you can be driven? So he wanted to drive, and so he went to the post office. Actually, true story, word for word. We get and we park. And he gets out, and he, again, has no legs. He gets into his wheelchair, and I have legs, and I get out of the car, and this little boy was going into the post office with his mom. and the child was at an age where they just dump everything out of their mouth, stops and says, "Mom, the guy with no legs is driving." And the mom's like, "Oh, dear Lord." So what did Rolf do? I know Yogi Berra said, when you come to the fork in the road, take it, tongue in cheek. He bloomed where he's planted, because Rolf rolled up to the little boy and he said to the mom, "Is it okay if you come right over here?" The kid came over, and the guy in the wheelchair who has no legs showed this little boy, "Yes, I can drive. Thanks to the people who made this. This is how I go and this is how I stop." And the little boy is like, wow. Totally changed his life. That the dude with legs was a passenger and the dude without legs drove. One last story. I go away for a week with all my friends, 3 of whom wrote this book. Years ago, we went into Rice Lake and went to Culver's. I just remember that because we were like, should we go this place or that place? Because it's not, a variable buffet. So we went to Culver's, and he wheeled in, I walked in, we walked up, and he started to order, and then I ordered. But I realized something very quickly, that whenever this nice young man would talk to my friend Rolf, the young man would say, "Do you want fries with that?" And then, I'm not kidding, he came to me. He looked, "What's the fries?" Totally different, softer. The young man goes to give us our fries and get all the things that needed to get, and then Rolf looks at me and says, "David, you need to know that since I don't have legs, most people think I can't hear either." The point being, when you bloom or you're planted, do you think my friend Rolf Jacobson yelled at the young man and scolded him? No. Because what would that do? He'd say, well, maybe people who have a different challenge and don't have legs might be able to hear well, but they're actually very ornery, because he yelled at me. Bloom where you're planted. Know that God is good and God will walk beside you or roll beside you. Because when people meet this man who could have taken a different path, they don't realize he has a THD from Princeton Seminary. He's a husband and a great dad and a great friend because he bloomed where he was planted.